If you're an entrepreneur, you understand the feeling like just there's always more to do when it comes to work. That work is just never fully complete. There's an endless to-do list of things that even if you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 5 years straight, you'd still have more to do. It's like there's always work to do. And so it's very easy as an entrepreneur, and I've wrestled with this many times throughout my life. It's very easy to allow work to bleed into your home life. Sometimes that looks like checking one quick text message or just opening up your email one more time or popping up the laptop for 15 minutes in a quick little crevice in the evening. Sometimes it's not actually physically working, but it might be mentally working. Like you're physically at home, but you're not actually there at home. One of the biggest desires I see from clients and entrepreneurs that I talk to over and over and over again is this desire to be fully engaged, fully present, to be fully invested in the moments where we are. And most of the time, this isn't necessarily about being invested at work. We don't really have a hard time as a high achiever being invested in our work. The challenge is, how do I be invested at home, in my relationship with my spouse, in my relationship with my kids? And if you have young kids, or you have kids that are involved in sports and activities, like when you get home, whether it's from a physical office or it's from the upstairs office in your home, when you're home and you're actually engaged now with the family, it can just be total chaos. And that feels chaotic, and now you're short with your family, and you're quick-tempered and you're irritable, it's because you're bringing in all of the baggage from the day into your home life. And that makes it even worse, right? Because now you feel guilty for not being present. You feel guilty for being irritable. You feel guilty for snapping at your kids or whatever it was. And it can feel like sometimes you're just trapped. There's always so much more to do. I gotta get all this done, and it's never enough. And you just don't ever feel completed with your work. And then when you home, you're not fully there. So how do you fix that? Well, I think one of the simplest ways to allow yourself to be more present at home, more invested in those relationships, more engaged mentally and emotionally with your kids and with your spouse when you're home, and have more joy and fulfillment from those interactions, and create memories that actually are things that you'll look back upon with fondness. One of the best ways to do that is to have a landing zone. It's a period of time between when you're done working and when you're back home, between work and home. Creating space, it might be 5 minutes, might be 15 minutes, where you decompress from work and you recenter yourself on where you're about to invest your energy. Now, I mentioned earlier that work is never complete. As an entrepreneur, there's always more to do. But just because work is never completed doesn't mean that we don't get to choose when work is done for the day. And so having a landing zone really is all about choosing to make a decision. Work is done for today. It's not completed. I didn't get everything off my list. Yeah, there's more to do. There's more emails. There's more projects and tasks and things that need to be handled. But I will leave those for tomorrow. And so having a specific period of time, let's say that you typically end your workday at 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever it is. If you end your day at 5:30, my encouragement to you would be to leave a 10-minute buffer, maybe 15-minute buffer between 5:15 and 5:30, where for some of you that's driving home in your car. For others of you, if you have an office in your home, you have to be a little bit more diligent about this. But using that time to take a look at what got done today, what didn't. Look at the day tomorrow, and ask yourself, what are the top 3 priorities that I want to get done between now and then? Make a list, get centered and focused on what are the most important outcomes for tomorrow, and then close it down. Shut down the email, close down the computer, and I want you to visualize what you're about to do. You're moving from your first shift of the day, which was your job, right? The business you're involved with, and you're about to move into your second shift of the day, which is the most important shift of all, and that's shifting toward your family. And I want you to visualize that first and foremost. I want you to visualize each of your kids and think about how do you want to show up? What is the experience that you want your children to have of you? here in the next half hour, the next hour? What is the experience you want your spouse to have of you in the next hour? What kind of a father, what kind of a husband, what kind of a mother, what kind of a wife do you want to be tonight? And if that's who you want to be, how do you need to show up? And I want you to actually picture and envision yourself, like visualize yourself engaging with your kids, visualize yourself engaging with your spouse, and visualize how, not necessarily like this is how the evening's gonna go, right? Because you never know how the evening's gonna go. It can be, like I said, total chaos sometimes. But visualize how you're going to show up for it. And remind yourself of what's really most important. For those of you who have a faith background, or you're a person of faith, I'd encourage you to spend a few minutes praying for each of your kids and praying for your wife, praying for to the Lord for yourself, that I would show up in a way that honors you, God, that I'd show up in a way that breathes life into my family. And so that landing zone might be 5 minutes, might be 15 minutes, but create a routine, a ritual, some questions you ask yourself, some things that you do that center you on where you're about to invest your energy, which is in the relationships and the people and the part of your life that's really the most important anyway, isn't it? So if you're finding yourself bringing work home, if you're finding, whether that's physically or emotionally, mentally, if you're finding yourself having a difficult time engaging authentically and genuinely and deeply in the relationships that matter most, first and foremost, just know that that's normal. We all wrestle with that. I wrestle with that all the time. But remember that there is a very simple solution to that. And that is to create that landing zone for 5, 10 to 15 minutes prior to when you're supposed to be done with work. Shut it down. Remember that work is never complete, but you get to decide when it's done.